All right, everyone, welcome to the online version of the Learn to Burn 1 class. I'm your host, Morgan Metter, and today we will be discussing all things equipment with Casey Reap. Casey is a habitat specialist on the Quail Forever Habitat Burn crew. Thank you, Casey, so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and so I'll let you go ahead and get started on your presentation, and looking forward to it.
Yeah. So today I'm going to be talking about some of the equipment that we use to perform prescribed fires safely. So on screen is a list of the personal protective equipment that we use. This is standard for most agencies that perform prescribed fires on a regular basis. So if you start going from top to the bottom, we'll cover everything that the standard firefighters use, starting with the helmet. That's usually a critical component of any fire uniform. It's going to prevent a lot of embers from falling on your head when you're cutting snags, as well as widowmakers, and just constantly getting in and out of equipment. You tend to bang your head a lot. Eye protection, also critical. Lots of embers flying around. Shirts, pants, they're usually made out of a Nomex material, which is fire resistant but not fireproof. Leather boots that are made with a stitched sole. If you have a glue sole, it is going to be not able to withstand the heat of the fire line, and it will come undone. Other parts of the equipment that we use are going to be drinking water, which is absolutely critical. If you're on a fire line and you don't have enough water, you're going to have people getting heat-related illness, and it is not going to be a good time. Radio, used for communication between line bosses, burn bosses, and crew members. Usually they will divvy up and go into two separate directions on a fire line. And so being able to keep in contact with the other squad that is performing operations on the other side of the unit is critical. If you don't have radios, there are ways you can mitigate that with a runner, but that takes a lot more time. Socks and underwear, they should be made of cotton, wool, or some other sort of natural fiber. Things with like polyester or synthetic kind of blends, they will melt under intense heat, and so they can actually stick to the skin. So trying to minimize as much synthetic material in your clothing is absolutely critical. Now, not every landowner is going to have access to that kind of professional equipment. So there is some minimum standards. Here's a list of everything that you need for a minimum kind of fire protection. A lot of them are going to be the same as the other professional standards. Shirt and pants made out of heavy cotton material. Again, anything that is non-synthetic that will not melt or stick to your skin is going to be acceptable. All leather gloves that are fire resistant. Eye protection. Leather boots. Welding clothing is preferable because it does have some fire resistance, but if you have non-synthetic material that is all natural, it tends to be pretty flame resistant too. Socks, underwear, again, cotton, wool, no synthetics. And then water, and if you can, radio, if you're going to be working with crew members that are going to be out of sight. Here's an example of a piece of clothing that is been used on a fire line. This is a fire resistant Nomex pair of pants. And after only a few burns, you can see the number of burn and scorch marks on it. Those are just simply from standing near the fire. The radiant heat and the small little embers and debris come off that fire line are going to actually cause burns. And this is on a pair of fire resistant pants. So you can imagine what it's going to do with non-fire resistant pants. Take a moment and look at this picture and just try to pick out some of the things that you can see that are wrong. pieces of PPE that are missing. Did you notice that they're not wearing leather boots? Most of them are not wearing any eye protection. And a lot of people have their sleeves rolled up or have no long sleeve shirts on. Apart from just the standard uniform, when we're doing certain tasks such as using chainsaws, there's additional requirements for safety. And that is going to be eye and face protection. Oftentimes they'll have a helmet which has a full face screen that protects you from burning materials or chips that are constantly hitting your face. Chainsaw chaps, which are meant to prevent injuries with the actual saw chain. They are not flame resistant, so keep in mind that you have to be careful about the heat that's on those. And then a hard hat. Anybody who is going to be cutting down any sort of flaming tree or dead tree should wear a hard hat when they're running a saw, because there are large pieces of debris that will come down. Next, we're going to take a moment and we're going to talk about some of the fire tools that we use. Fire tools are essential to performing a prescribed fire. They help to manage the fire that is directly being put onto the fire line. So first, we're going to take a look at the fire council rake, which is the one on the left. You can see that it is made of 4 blades, and it is best for scraping and kind of hacking through small light brush or grass. It's great at clearing lines down to a dirt soil and removing fuels that are burnable. And you can use that to help pull fuels away from the burning fire line, or you can actually go around and prep things ahead of time and put small fire lines around dead snag trees or deer stands or things that you do not want to burn that are within the unit. On the right side, you can take a look and you can see the Pulaski. That is a cutting and digging tool. You can see that one side is an axe head and the other side is very similar to a pickaxe. The heavy weight of that material makes it great for splitting up dead snags or logs that are down on the fire line and burning up. And it's great at digging out stump holes, which have the potential to burn underneath fire lines. Other hand tools include a flapper, which is kind of like a mop for a fire. It's basically a piece of rubber on a stick. And so you actually use that to smother out the fire. That is great for grass fires and fuels that are very light, such as leaves. If you start having heavy fuels like wood and twigs and sticks, they're less effective, and you're going to need something with water to help extinguish those, which is where the ATV with a spray tank comes in handy. Now, on this ATV spray tank, it's great for managing the fire line and putting out small fires that are along the line, or for putting out spot fires. When you purchase or make an investment into an ATV water tank, you want to make sure that it's not going to overload your ATV and make it a danger on the fire line for flipping or rolling. And you want to have a tank that is large enough with a large enough pump to put out enough water to handle any spot fires that you may have. If you have a 1.2 gallon per minute pump, which is generally the smallest herbicide pumps they make, you're not going to be very effective at putting out a spot fire. Get something larger that's got about 3 gallons a minute. Other hand tools that we use are for ignition. So this here is a drip torch. Now the drip torch is made with a wick at the top that is constantly lit, and you pour fuel through that and it lights the fuel as it hits the ground. Now the fuel that is used inside of the drip torch is made of 1 part gasoline and 3 parts diesel. You want to have at least 2 per fire. That way you can split up and have members of different crews go in different directions. Other hand tools that we use include flagging tape, compass, and chainsaw. If you bring a chainsaw onto a fire, make sure it works. If you have a tree that's on fire, it's not going to do you a lot of good if your chainsaw isn't going to be running. Weather instruments. A lot of the professional organizations will have access to a weather belt kit or a Kestrel, which is what you can see pictured on the right side of the screen. The weather belt kit contains a sling psychrometer, which is used to measure temperature, dew point, and relative humidity. It also includes a wind gauge, which can measure the wind speed and direction. And if you look below it, the Kestrel is basically a digital form of that weather belt, which measures all the same factors. If you can't afford a weather belt, having access to a weather app on your smartphone is a great way to substitute. Here are some of the local gear dealers that we recommend. Supply Cash is a great online retailer. Forestry Suppliers is another great online retailer. And Construction Safety Products located in Little Rock. Any questions?
I do have a few questions for you. So since you are a crew member on a burn crew, basically, you have lots of experience doing this. So you kind of know the ins and outs and, you know, the best equipment or your favorite equipment that you like to use. Do you have kind of your equipment that you couldn't live without, since you're on a burn crew and you burn on a regular basis?
Yes. So all the standard PPE that we talked about is stuff that you can't live without for doing these burns on a regular basis. But when we talk about drinking water, that is the absolute most critical. And the water bottle is great, but having a hydration pack is absolutely life-saving. You can't be taking in enough water when it's a 90-degree day and you're standing next to a fire all day. So a hydration bladder pack where you can just quick take a sip and go back to work, critical.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know doing a lot of late growing season burns, it's already 90+ degrees outside, and then you're standing by a fire. And so it's already,
you got the humid days.
yeah, so you're already sweltering. So yeah, reminding people that water is important, even though it doesn't seem as important as maybe your other tools that you do have. So that's good. And for people that are interested in, for example, buying Nomex, because that sounds great. Like, man, fire resistant. I may not burn up in the fire, but how much does that stuff usually cost?
It varies in price range. There are different grades of Nomex that you can buy, and in different styles.
Mm-hmm.
So they have what is called a banana suit, which is basically like a mechanic's jumpsuit.
Mm-hmm.
And that is generally one of the cheaper ones that you can actually get most of the time. It's just one solid piece, and they're not the most comfortable, but those would be at the lower range. When you start getting into some of the shirt pants combos, they can have Kevlar reinforcements, and those start getting pricey real quick. A standard set of fire pants is like $200.
Oh my.
And a Nomex shirt is about another $100.
So it's a definite investment. So if you're going to be doing a lot of fires, then it could be a good investment for that. But if you're only doing like maybe once, blue moon kind of thing, then your standard like heavy duty blue jeans and cotton shirt and leather boots and all that good stuff.
Those work great. They tend to be fairly fire resistant. They will catch fire, but they're not going to melt your skin or anything like that. And they don't provide as much radiant heat protection as the Nomex. I
got you. Yeah, and I know there's other equipment that we couldn't discuss in today's presentation that you use as well, being on the burn crew. Like y'all have really large water tanks that y'all use in the back of UTVs, which you kind of mentioned a little bit earlier for a four-wheeler size. And then y'all also use, what is it? The
Q-Tech skid units.
yes. And y'all use a lot of like leaf blower type things
Yes.
too, which seem like they come in handy. But obviously y'all are a little bit more advanced than maybe some of our landowners may be starting off. So it's just interesting that you can use kind of equipment that you wouldn't necessarily think you could use, but it you know, you can use that and it can be beneficial to you on a fire. So it's always interesting to see what the new kind of thing is that you can bring to the table. So I didn't know if you had anything else you would like to add today.
I think you covered it pretty good. Like you said, there's a lot more equipment and it's constantly being upgraded, and there's people creating new stuff that's more and more innovative every day. So we can always discuss that in other burn courses as you start getting more involved in more kind of advanced operations.
Yes, that is very true. So before we end this presentation, I just wanted to remind viewers that all these Learn to Burn 1 videos will be available online, and they can be found either on the Quail Forever at Arkansas Facebook page or a YouTube channel. And they should also be available on the Arkansas Game and Fish social media platforms as well. So again, I just want to thank y'all for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.